Hello and welcome to the OriginMD channel. In this series of gameplay videos I'm going to play against the mill in the Kaladesh season. Alright, we think that this hand will be good enough because we have the Bombed Courier and we can discard the Haunted Dead that we have in our hand. We also have a very good combination of going for a turn to Hero Falkenrath, into turn 3 discard a card and go for the Incorrigible Use to hit for very decent damage. So we have collected one of the cards on the Bombed Courier. We can discard our hand and put all the cards that have been exiled face down into our hand. Our opponent has sacrificed an Evolving Wilds and got some red mana for himself. He plays out blue mana. Alright, a Thermo Alchemist. This is an indication that we are facing an is it burn or is it mill. He does have 3 toughness, so we do have all the color of mana we need. So we're just going to attack first, since we don't have any hasty creatures for 2. Collect another card on the Bombed Courier. Of course our opponent blocks. We are going to play out the Hero Falkenrath and we're going to skip to the next turn. Our opponent plays out an Evolving Wilds, sacrifices it. Let's see which color of mana he's missing. Another red. Alright. He does leave 2 mana open, so it is possible that he has some burn spell. Either way, like we have mentioned before, we're going to use the combination. Just flip the Hero Falkenrath, get the Incorrigible Use out and attack. Collect another card on the Bombed Courier, but we won't be able to use his ability as it requires 1 mana. Alright, he blocks the Bombed Courier only and also taps down the Thermo Alchemist, so we receive 1 damage, whereas we leave our opponent at only 12 life. We do have a burn spell in the Fiery Temper, and we also have the Arms of the Vein. So let's see if he's going to use something. Alright, it's a Collective Defiance, which means he can take care of one of the creatures. Yes, let's see. He doesn't have enough mana to make me discard my hand as well. So he is tapped out completely. But that also means that we have taken some damage. Let's see, we have an Evolving Wilds and we have 3 cards on the Bombed Courier. We can collect 1 more. We can sacrifice the Courier. And then we can get only 2 of our spells out, unfortunately. I think that having 1 more red is more prevalent here. Let's go ahead and attack. And we'll keep our options open and see if our opponent will have a burn spell to deal with the Courier. So we have applied quite a lot of pressure on our opponent. He is going to leave us at 14, but we do have ways of gaining life and ways of dealing some burn damage that can hopefully help us close out the game. Our opponent seems to have done nothing on his turn, but I'm not sure I want to use and tap out all of my mana. Right, we got another Fiery Temper, so we actually have enough damage to deal with our opponent this turn, hopefully. We collect 1 more card on the Bombed Courier, leave our mana open. Alright, our opponent pauses the game and he uses Galvanic Bombardment. Let's see who he is going to use it on the Hero Falkenrath. This is fine with us. This makes his Thermo Alchemist on tap, so he can go for some damage once again. Alright, let's discard. Then we can use all the 3 abilities we have here. So first the Fiery Temper. Let's see what he has. Does he have a counterspell? Alright, he deals 1 damage. Alright, he does have a counterspell, so we won't be able to win the game by using all of our spells we have discarded with its madness cost. But we do have the Arms of the Vein that we can use to gain some life back. This was part of the reason I didn't use the Fiery Tempers on dealing with the Thermo Alchemist. But now I'm going to use it, since we don't want to be in a situation when we can't close out the game. And we can even play out 1 more black mana that we have. We have the Haunted Dead that we can bring back from the graveyard. We also have the Pommed Courier. And we even have the Incorrigible Use that come into play with haste. So I think we're in a decent situation here. Alright, we also have the Impetuous Devils that can deal 6 damage exactly. But of course our opponent just might have the removal spell. Let's use the Haunted Dead. Discard 2 cards we have here, the Incorrigible Use and the Evolving Wilds, and play out the Incorrigible Use for their madness cost. We're going to attack for 2. We're going to attack for 4 this turn. Now our opponent is only at 2 life. The Sphinx's Tutelage starts doing its work. Alright, we got another Haunted Dead. This is even better for us. Collective Defiance. Let's see. Is he going to mill himself? Yes, he is. Alright. He does have just 1 more mana available, but I think considering that he only has 1 mana, going for an Impetuous Devils that has haste, we are going to be able to close out the game next turn. So let's go ahead and play it out. I don't think he has a counterspell for only 1 mana. Alright, the opponent has left the game. We're going to attack and say good game. Alright, this is a more mid-range deck. The one that I play in the level 3 is it artifact theme. So I'm going to draw another hand, and this seems to be a bit more plausible. Although if our opponent doesn't have any creatures, then the Harness Lightning is going to be of limited use. Let's see. Our opponent plays a mountain. We do have our 3rd mana, which means that on turn 2 we can play out the Reckless Fireweaver, and on turn 3 we can start off with the Cultivator's Caravan and deal 1 damage. Red and blue. Alright. We do have 4 mana now, so let's go ahead and attack first. No flash creatures come into play from our opponent to block. We play out the Cultivator's Caravan. This deals an additional damage to our opponent. He plays out another island and Fevered Visions. Alright, this is definitely a mill deck in this case, since he does have 2 blue mana. This means he's going to draw additional cards, and so am I. Interesting, we do have another mana, which means we can play out the Smuggler's Copter, deal 1 additional damage from the Reckless Fireweaver, crew the Copter, and then crew the Caravan with the Copter, and deal 5 damage this turn since our opponent is tapped out. We can also use the 2 mana that we have left to gain some energy in order not to take damage from having 4 cards in our hand. And I have to say that the Fevered Visions is even going to help us in this aspect, because we can draw additional cards and get rid of them. So let's go ahead and use the Harness Lightning for 0 and gain 3 energy this way. We got another land, but we are hopeful that we can get some creatures going. Our opponent plays a Humber Battlements. Interesting, this might be a burn deck instead of a mill deck then. I'm really wondering which creatures he's going to give haste to though. He is discarding a card, let's see what it's going to be. Yep, it's going to be a Fiery Temper. So he can either get rid of the Reckless Fireweaver or deal damage directly to us. Yes, he takes care of the Reckless Fireweaver. We have some of our own burn, but no creatures. Let's sacrifice the Evolving Wilds. We can at some point just make the Thopters from the Foundry of Councils. Let's see, which color do we need the most? I'd say red mana is where it's at. We can also just go for an Exquisite Firecraft. Our opponent might have a counterspell, and we don't really have 2 instant and sorceries in our graveyard. But we do want to use the mana effectively. Let's use it. That leaves our opponent at 8. We got 1 more land. So we're even more grateful to our opponent for having the Fevered Visions out. He uses Oath of Jace, so yeah, this seems to be a mill deck. Draws 3 cards, he can now discard. But we are close to just activating the Foundry of Councils and crewing the Copter and the Caravan. Our opponent has another burn spell. He uses the Fiery Temper, of course, for direct damage, but he is tapped out of mana. Alright, he does have 1 mana available, it's an Edo Hub. Draws another card. Discards 1. Let's see what he discards. It's a Hamburg Garrison. Very interesting. So his plan was to go and meld the Hamburg Garrison battlements into Reading Township. Alright, this is something unique. Let's go ahead and cast out the Thopter Engineer we have. This way we can crew the Smuggler's Copter and then the Caravan. Alright. I don't think our opponent has a 1 mana removal spell here. We can hit for 6. Right, he does have a Fiery Impulse. That means that he is going to take care of the Smuggler's Copter that we have here, since he has Spell Mastery. But the job is done. Our opponent is down to 2 health, so any creatures that we have, for example sacrificing the Foundry of Councils and hitting with the Hasty Thopters, will just straight out end the game. Alright, let's see what's next. It is Cathartic Reunion, so he's going to self-mill. Let's have a look at which cards he's going to discard. He's going to discard the Collective Defiance. This is quite interesting. He does have another Ether Hub. And Oath of Chandra. This can deal with our Thopter Engineer, so we won't have hasty Thopter tokens from the Foundry of Councils, but instead we do have another Smuggler's Copter, which we can crew, and this will allow us to crew the Cultivator's Caravan as well. And this means that if we're going to crew it, we're just going to deal little damage. Our opponent has left the game. So let's attack and close it out, and on to the next one. We've covered aggro and mid-range decks, now it's time for a burn deck. So much more controlling type. Let's have a look. Yep, this looks decent enough. We do have the Dinnerville Tower, and we do have Chandra, the Flamecaller. Our opponent uses an Evolving Wilds to get a mountain out. Plays out an island and Brain in the Jar. Very interesting artifact from Shadows over Innistrad that allows you to play out sorcery speed spells at instant speed if you have enough counters on it. Let's see, third turn. No spells, interesting. Might be some conditional counter spell for us, but we're going to play out the Dinnerville Tower anyway. It is going to get countered by the Spell Shrivel, so we can gear ourselves for a long game. Alright, Sphinx's Tutelage. The mill has shown itself. Also an Evolving Wilds that he's going to sacrifice this or next turn. Let's see, he is tapped out of mana though, so we can cast out Chandra. He doesn't have any counters on his Brain in the Jar. Gets another island. We're going to +1 Chandra, dealing 2 damage to the opponent. Let's see, it's a Fiery Temper. Alright, we have traded dealing 2 damage for dealing 2 damage, not too bad. We're going to get milled. He also has a Westvale Abbey, very interesting. Does he have enough creatures to use the Westvale Abbey? We have been milled out of a few lands, which is completely fine. Since we do have enough. Alright, one more land. Let's go ahead and +1 Chandra, see if there is anything we would want to cast. It's Collected Defiance. Since our opponent has counter spells, I'm not too sure if I want to do this. So let's not cast it out. We deal 2 damage anyway. And now we can skip to our opponent's turn. And then we can use the Fiery Temper end of turn when he is tapped out. He does put a counter on the Brain in the Jar. Let's use the Fiery Temper here and hope it doesn't get countered. Although if it does get countered, this is not going to be such a big loss for us. Our opponent seems to be thinking whatever he wants to do it or not. We need just one more instant or sorcery to cast out the Exquisite Firecraft. Fortunately, our Dynavolt Tower has been exiled. Don't think I'm going to miss the axe that we have. Doesn't seem like our opponent has many creatures. Let's go ahead and use Chandra's ability again. Alright, this was an Edo Hub, so we got quite a few lands here in our first draws. Not going to cast anything out, I think, since I want to keep the Exquisite Firecraft in case he has a creature that can deal potential damage to Chandra, and we are getting close to using her ultimate. We're going to get milled some more. Alright, one more Fiery Temper. Collective Defiance, so he does have a way to prevent our Chandra from using her ultimate. He's going to deal 3 damage, I'm quite sure of it. Let's see what other options he's going to use in the Collective Defiance. Will he make us discard the cards? Yes, he will. Alright, we do get another Chandra though. And this Chandra can deal pretty significant damage to our opponent. How many counters does he have on his Brain in the Jar? If we do play out this Chandra though, he is going to... Alright, we do have a Fall of Titans now, so if we play it out for the Surge cost, we'll actually be able to deal some pretty good damage. Let's sacrifice the Evolving Wilds, get another land out. Let's +1 Chandra as well. See what kind of spell we're going to see. It's a Bedlam Reveler. If we cast it out, then we're going to have to discard our hand completely. But our opponent uses a Broken Concentration. So we did cast a spell out. And we can use the Evolving Wilds, we can use the Fall of Titans to deal 3 damage to our opponent. Or next turn we can just go for the Dramatic Reversal. And then use the Fall of Titans for its Surge cost. Right, we got milled some more. Let's see, we should probably use the Chandra's +1 again. We deal 2 damage. Our opponent still hasn't played out any more spells. He did use one of the Collective Defiances. We can play out 1 land anyway. I don't think I want to use Chandra considering how many counterspells our opponent potentially has. So I'm just going to skip to our opponent's turn. Let's see what he uses. He still has the 3 counters on the Brain in the Jar. He He's going to use the Fateful Showdown to deal damage to Chandra. Alright, I think we can use the Fiery Temper on our opponent. Let's see if it gets countered. It doesn't get countered. It does use the Sphinx's Tutelage. And I think we can use the Fall of Titans to deal 4 damage to our opponent. Using 1 energy. That takes him down to 2 life. We're going to get milled. And that will leave us at 17, but it is possible that our opponent has even more mill cards. He does have a Fevered Visions, which means he's going to mill us. Alright, he has 2 Fevered Visions. So he's going to draw 2 cards and mill us twice, but I don't think this is going to be enough for our opponent. He might use some of the spells with the Brain in the Jar, but even Chandra's +1 ability will be able to close out the game. If he gets rid of Chandra somehow, we have another Chandra, so let's use the +1 ability. And we have won the game. I want to thank you for watching and see you in the next video.